Be me, 29 years old, living in a quiet little suburban townhouse, doing architectural rendering, making decent money, driving a used Toyota Tacoma, going by the name Bash. It is a good life, a quiet life, a life built entirely on a foundation of intense burning spite. Because 4 years ago, my name was Justin, and Justin was a completely miserable human being. Justin was 60 pounds heavier than Bash. Justin had a weak jawline hidden by nothing. Justin worked in the basement of a defunct medical supply company, literally scanning old paper invoices into a computer all day. It smelled like dust and failure down there. And Justin was dating a girl named Nora. Nora and I had been together for 3 years. 3 years of suffocating absolute misery. We fought constantly about literally everything. We fought about money. We fought about whose turn it was to buy groceries. We fought about me leaving wet towels on the bathroom door hook. We fought about my complete lack of ambition. She needed constant validation. I was too depressed to give it to her. We were just dragging each other through the mud every single day. Finally, she hit her breaking point. She stood in our terrible apartment holding a plastic laundry basket. She looked at me with dead eyes and issued the ultimatum. We go to couples counseling, or she packs her bags and leaves tonight. I was terrified of being alone, so I agreed, which is how I ended up sitting on a rigid leather sofa in the sleek, sterile office of Dr. Catherine Moore. Dr. Catherine Moore was a clinical psychologist. She specialized in relationship dynamics, and she was absolutely, utterly terrifying. She sat across from us in a sharp black pantsuit. Her hair was pulled back into this severe tight bun. She peered over these thin, silver-rimmed glasses. She did not smile. She did not offer warm, fuzzy platitudes. She did not have a bowl of mints on her desk. She just listened to us bicker for 45 minutes, taking meticulous notes on a yellow legal pad. The scratching of her pen was the loudest sound in the room. Finally, she stopped writing. She put the pen down on the desk. She folded her hands together. She looked directly at Nora, and she clinically dismantled my entire existence. She didn't even raise her voice. He is not your partner, Nora. Her voice was like ice water. He is a project. He is emotionally stagnant. He is deeply insecure. He is using your relationship as a shield against personal responsibility. I just sat there staring at the carpet, my heart pounding in my ears. You are waiting for potential that does not exist. She leaned forward slightly. He is an anchor. And if you don't cut the rope, you are going to drown with him. I was completely paralyzed. This stranger had surgically removed my soul in front of my girlfriend. I couldn't even defend myself. Because deep down I knew she was right. Nora packed her bags that exact same night. She left her house keys on the kitchen counter, and she walked out the door. The breakup destroyed me. I spent 2 weeks sleeping on the couch eating dry cereal. But more than the breakup, Dr. Catherine Moore's words just kept echoing in my head. Potential that does not exist. An anchor. It sparked this deeply buried, furious spite inside my chest. A hot, burning rage. I decided I would literally rather die than prove that woman right. I dragged myself off the couch, and I completely scorched the earth of my old life. I started going to a terrible rundown gym at 5 in the morning. I ate nothing but plain chicken and broccoli for months. I shed the 60 pounds. I put on solid muscle. I grew a short, neat beard to cover my jawline. I quit the miserable invoice scanning job. I taught myself 3D rendering from terrible YouTube tutorials. I started a freelance architectural visualization business. It actually took off. I bought the townhouse. I bought the Tacoma. And most importantly, I stopped introducing myself as Justin. My middle name was Bash. I know, weird. So I became Bash. Justin was the pathetic loser who got psychoanalyzed into oblivion. Bash was someone completely different. Bash had his life together. Which brings us to last month. After 4 years of absolute monk-like focus on self-improvement, I finally felt stable enough to download Hinge. Dating apps are usually a complete nightmare. Just endless scrolling through terrible pictures. But after a few days of mindless swiping, I matched with a woman named Kath. Her profile was totally empty of the usual garbage. No group photos holding drinks on a boat. No heavily filtered bathroom mirror selfies. Just a few pictures of a petite, soft-featured woman. She had wavy chestnut hair, a warm, genuine smile, and this incredibly sophisticated fashion sense. She wore vintage floral dresses, cream-colored cashmere sweaters, delicate pearl earrings. She looked like someone who reads actual books. Her bio was simple. healthcare consultant. I spend all day looking at boring spreadsheets, so please just tell me a ridiculous joke and lie to me about how good my sourdough bread looks. I sent her a message about a sourdough starter I killed once. She replied immediately. The chemistry was instantaneous. Kath was brilliant. She was blisteringly sarcastic, but also surprisingly vulnerable. We texted absolute paragraphs back and forth for a week and a half. We argued over the architectural merits of brutalism. We complained about the rising cost of decent coffee. We shared highly specific, mundane details of our lives. She sent me a picture of her burnt toast on a Tuesday morning. I sent her a picture of my messy desk. Finally, I just asked her out. We agreed to meet at a quiet, dimly lit speakeasy downtown, the kind of place that specializes in Prohibition-era cocktails and charges way too much for them. I arrived 15 minutes early, wearing a fitted charcoal shirt and dark jeans. My heart was hammering against my ribs. I was nervously peeling the label off a napkin when she walked through the door. My breath actually caught in my throat. She was even more beautiful in person. She was short, maybe 5'3", wearing a stunning beige trench coat over a dark emerald dress. But what struck me most was how incredibly nervous she looked. She was fidgeting with the strap of her leather purse, biting her lower lip and scanning the room. I stood up and waved her over. Kath? Her face lit up with a massive, relieved smile. She walked over to the table. Bash. Hi. Oh, thank God. You look exactly like your pictures. I was genuinely terrified you were going to be a guy who talks exclusively about cryptocurrency. I pulled out her chair for her. I only talk about crypto on the third date. Tonight is strictly reserved for arguing about why standard time is better than daylight saving time. She let out this bright, unrestrained laugh, and as she sat down, she accidentally bumped her knee hard against the heavy wooden table. The whole table shook. She nearly knocked over the little tea-light candle. She instantly flushed bright red. She covered her face with both hands. I am so sorry. I am incredibly clumsy when I'm nervous. I sit behind a desk all day projecting absolute terrifying authority. And the second I'm out in the real world, my motor skills just completely disintegrate. That tiny micro-domestic detail, her just openly acknowledging her own awkwardness, it instantly endeared her to me. I ordered us 2 overpriced gin cocktails. The date was without exaggeration the best of my entire life. We sat there and talked for 4 straight hours. We drank 3 rounds of drinks, the ice melting in the glasses. She told me about how stressful her consulting job was, how she constantly had to be the bad guy, how she had to deliver hard truths to people, how exhausting it was to carry other people's emotional baggage all day. People look at me and they think I'm this stone-cold sociopath. She traced the rim of her glass with her finger, her eyes dropping down to look at my hands on the table. They think I have everything perfectly figured out, but really, I go home. I eat stale Pop-Tarts over the sink, and I watch terrible reality television to decompress. She looked back up at me. I just want someone I don't have to be perfect for. I leaned in closer across the small table. You don't have to be perfect for me. My voice dropped an octave without me even meaning to. She looked at me, her dark eyes locking onto mine, and the air between us suddenly felt incredibly heavy and electric. It was loud in the bar, but I couldn't hear anyone else. When the bartender finally announced last call, neither of us wanted the night to end. We paid the bill and walked outside. The crisp autumn air was absolutely freezing. She shivered. I took off my jacket and draped it over her shoulders. She smiled and pulled it tight around herself. We walked the 6 blocks to her place. She owned a beautifully restored, detached Victorian house on a quiet, tree-lined street, fallen leaves covering the sidewalk. We walked up the steps to her porch. The moment we stepped inside, she locked the heavy wooden door behind us. The deadbolt clicked, echoing in the hallway, and the polite getting-to-know-you tension completely snapped. She turned around, still wearing my jacket. She grabbed the collar of my shirt, and she pulled me in. The kiss was desperate and messy and entirely consuming. It was the kind of kiss that completely short-circuits your brain. My hands found her waist. I lifted her slightly as she backed me up against the hallway wall. We stumbled blindly through her dark living room. We bumped into a console table, knocking a stack of mail and a set of keys onto the floor. Neither of us cared. We were completely lost in each other. We made it to her bedroom. I will spare you the highly explicit details, but the night was an absolute revelation. It was intensely passionate, deeply intimate, punctuated by these small, awkward, vulnerable moments. like her laughing against my neck when we accidentally rolled off the edge of the mattress, or the way she quietly traced the old scars on my shoulder in the dark. I fell asleep holding her, feeling this overwhelming, terrifying sense of peace. I genuinely thought, lying there in the dark, that I had just met the love of my life. I was planning out our next 3 dates in my head before I drifted off. Then came the morning. I woke up around 7 a.m. The sun was streaming through the heavy curtains. Kath was still fast asleep. She was tangled in the white duvet, her face buried in a fluffy pillow. She looked incredibly soft and completely unguarded. I laid there for a minute, just watching her breathe. I wanted to do something nice. I wanted to be the perfect new boyfriend guy. So I quietly slipped out of bed. I pulled on my jeans, and I padded barefoot down the hardwood hall to her kitchen. I wanted to make her coffee. Her kitchen was a hilarious contradiction. She had this high-end, massive espresso machine, gorgeous, white marble countertops, but the stainless steel trash can was entirely filled with empty, frozen pizza boxes, and there was a bright pink sticky note slapped on the fridge door. It just said, in black Sharpie, "Buy toilet paper, you idiot." I smiled to myself. I found the coffee beans in the cupboard. I ground them up and got the machine running. The smell of dark roast filled the kitchen. I poured 2 mugs, and I realized I wanted to leave a cute note on the counter, just in case she had to rush to work and I had to leave. I patted my pockets. No pen. I needed a pen. I walked out of the kitchen with my mug. I walked down the hall and pushed open the door to the room across from the bedroom. I assumed it was a study or a home office. It was an office, a very nice one. The walls were lined with heavy, intimidating textbooks. A sleek, modern oak desk sat in the middle of the room. I walked over to the desk. I opened the top drawer. I pushed aside some loose paper clips and sticky notes. I pulled out a heavy brass pen. As I pushed the drawer closed, my eyes drifted up to the wall directly above her double computer monitors. There were 3 framed documents hanging in a neat, perfectly level row. I took a sip of my coffee, and I squinted at the largest frame in the center, the University of Pennsylvania, Doctor of Philosophy and Clinical Psychology, awarded to Catherine Moore. I stopped breathing. The coffee in my mouth suddenly tasted like battery acid. My blood instantly turned to Freon. The ambient hum of the refrigerator down the hall seemed to completely vanish, replaced by this high-pitched ringing in my ears. I took a staggering step back. My bare heel hit the leg of an armchair. My eyes darted to the smaller frame next to the diploma. It was a professional headshot from a few years ago. She was wearing a sharp black pantsuit. Her hair was pulled back into a severe bun. She was peering over silver-rimmed glasses, not smiling. It was her, the woman who psychologically eviscerated me, the woman who told Nora I was a worthless anchor, Dr. Catherine Moore. My brain violently tried to reject the information. No, that makes no sense. This is Kath. Kath who burns toast. Kath who bumps her knee on tables. But all the puzzle pieces clicked together with sickening, devastating clarity. Her bio said healthcare consultant. She said she projects terrifying authority. She said she has to deliver hard truths to people. She said she is exhausted from carrying other people's emotional baggage. Of course, she didn't recognize me. I had lost 60 pounds. I grew a thick beard. I completely changed my personal style from graphic tees to fitted button-downs, and I introduced myself as Bash. To her, I was an entirely new person, a handsome, well-adjusted architect guy she met on Hinge. To me, she was the literal architect of my greatest trauma. She was the monster who destroyed my life. My hand started shaking. I dropped the heavy brass pen. It hit the hardwood floor with a loud, sharp clatter. It rolled under the desk. I just stood there, completely paralyzed, staring at the diploma. My chest was heaving. I felt like I was going to throw up all over the vintage rug. The woman sleeping in the next room, the woman I had just spent the most incredible intimate night of my life with, was the exact same woman who looked me in the eye 4 years ago and told me I was a worthless, emotionally stagnant project. Bash, I literally jumped out of my skin. I spun around, splashing a tiny bit of hot coffee onto my own hand. Kath was standing in the doorway of the office. She was wearing one of my oversized gray t-shirts. It hung off one shoulder. Her hair was sleep-tousled and messy. She looked so incredibly soft. She was rubbing the sleep out of her left eye with the back of her hand. She smelled like my cologne and her vanilla body wash. "What are you doing in here?" she murmured. Her voice was thick and raspy with sleep. She walked slowly toward me, entirely oblivious to the absolute apocalyptic meltdown happening inside my head. She wrapped her arms around my torso from behind. She rested her warm cheek against my back. The coffee smells amazing. You're spoiling me already. I stood completely frozen, a rigid statue in the middle of her home office. I could feel the warmth of her body pressing against my spine. I could feel the ghost of my former self, Justin, screaming in agony. "You're tense," she whispered. Her hands slid up my chest. She stepped around me to look up at my face. A small, genuine frown of concern creased her forehead. "Hey, you look like you've seen a ghost. What's wrong?" I stared down into the warm, brown eyes of the woman who destroyed my life. The woman who I am now absolutely, undeniably obsessed with. The unresolved momentum in the room was suffocating. My mind was racing at 1,000,000 miles an hour. If I tell her the truth right now, if I just open my mouth and say, "Hi, I am Justin, the pathetic loser you ruined 4 years ago," the sheer professional horror and embarrassment will make her kick me out of this house instantly. She will probably call the police. She will definitely block my number. I will lose her forever. But if I lie to her, if I keep being Bash the cool architect, I'm starting a relationship built on the most unhinged, insane deception in human history. I am literally sleeping with the enemy, the woman who created the man I am today. I looked at her face. She looked so worried about me. "Nothing," I lied. My voice cracked slightly. I swallowed hard and forced the most painful fake smile of my life. "Just looking for a pen." She smiled softly. She reached up and kissed my jaw. "We'll leave the pen. Come back to bed." She took my free hand, and she started pulling me out of the office. I followed her. My legs felt like lead. I am walking back into the fire, and I have absolutely no idea how I am going to survive this. We get back into bed. The sheets are warm. She curls up against my chest. I stare at the ceiling for 45 minutes. My heart rate refuses to drop. She falls back asleep. I gently untangle myself from her arms. I need to leave. I need to get out of this house before I have a full-blown panic attack. I find my jeans. I find my boots. I grab my phone off the nightstand. I quietly write a note on the back of an old receipt from my wallet. Had a sudden work emergency. Huge rendering deadline. Call you later. Bash. I leave it on the kitchen island next to the cold coffee. I unlock the heavy wooden front door, and I literally sprint down the porch steps. The crisp autumn air hits my sweaty face. I walk fast down the tree-lined street. I just need to get to my truck. I turned the corner where I parked the Tacoma last night. It's not there. The street is empty. I stop walking. I look at the street sign. There is a faded red sign hiding behind a tree branch. Towaway zone, 4 a.m. TO 8 a.m. I slap my hands against my face. Of course. Of absolutely goddamn course. I take my phone out. My hands are shaking so bad I can barely unlock it. I search for the local impound lot. I call an Uber. I wait on the freezing curb for 12 minutes. The Uber driver is a guy playing incredibly loud talk radio. He asks me how my morning is going. I tell him I am living in a nightmare. He nods and turns the radio up louder. We arrive at the towing lot. It is a miserable dirt patch surrounded by chain link fence. I walk into the tiny portable office building. It smells like cheap cigarettes and wet dog. The guy behind the thick plexiglass window does not look up from his phone. License and registration. He grunts. I slide my license under the glass. 29 Tacoma, I say. He types incredibly slowly on a keyboard that looks like it survived a fire. That's $250, plus a $40 overnight fee, plus a $20 convenience fee. I hand him my credit card. I am dying inside. I walk out to the lot. There is a massive puddle of muddy water right next to my driver's side door. I step right into it. My boot soaks through instantly. I get into my truck. I sit in the cold driver's seat. I grip the steering wheel, and I just scream. A loud, pathetic, embarrassing scream. I need to talk to someone. I pull out my phone and call Ian. Ian is my oldest friend. Ian owns a struggling gutter cleaning business. Ian has the absolute worst judgment of any human being I have ever met, which makes him the perfect person to talk to right now. He answers on the third ring. "Hello," he says over the sound of a loud vacuum. "Ian, I need to see you right now. I'm cleaning out Mrs. Fairchild's downspouts, Bash. It's a mess. Ian, please. My life is collapsing." He sighs loudly. "Meet me at the diner on 4th Street in 20 minutes. I drive to the diner. I sit in a cracked red vinyl booth. I order a black coffee. Ian walks in wearing heavy work boots and a stained high-vis jacket. He sits across from me. He smells like wet leaves and roof tar. All right, man, what's the emergency? He grabs a menu and instantly flags down the waitress. I need a plate of eggs, wet, sunny side up, and a side of burnt bacon. The waitress nods and walks away. I look at Ian. I slept with someone last night. Ian grins. Nice. No, Ian, not nice. It's Dr. Catherine Moore. Ian stares at me. He blinks slowly. Who? Dr. Catherine Moore, the therapist, the one who ruined my life 4 years ago, the one who told Nora to dump me. Ian's mouth falls open. Wait, the pantsuit lady? The one who called you a sinking ship. She called me an anchor, Ian. Right, an anchor. Ian leans back in the booth. Dude, that is insane. Did she recognize you? No. I rub my eyes. She thinks I'm Bash, the successful architect guy. She has no idea I used to be Justin. The waitress brings his eggs. They are sitting in a small pool of water on the plate. It makes my stomach turn. Ian picks up his fork and starts eating. So what's the problem? He asks with a mouthful of egg. I stare at him. What do you mean, what's the problem? The problem is, I am lying to her about my entire identity. The problem is, she is my mortal enemy. Ian shrugs. Is she hot? Yes. Ian, she's incredibly hot, and smart, and funny. And we spent 4 hours talking about architecture. And I really, really like her. And I left my favorite gray jacket at her house. Ian points his fork at me. So just don't tell her. What? Just never tell her. You're Bash now, right? Justin is dead. Just keep being Bash. Marry her. Have kids. Take the secret to your grave. It's foolproof. I put my head down on the sticky diner table. You are the worst person to ask for advice. My phone buzzes in my pocket. It's a text from Kath. Good morning, busy guy. I found your note and your jacket. Want me to bring it over tonight? I can order Thai food. I stare at the screen. My heart does a terrible fluttery thing. I want to see her again. I really want to see her again. I look up at Ian. She wants to come over to my house tonight. Ian scoops up the last of his eggs. Better hide anything that says Justin on it. He is right. I pay for his breakfast. I drive back to my townhouse. I pull into the driveway. I walk through the front door, and I look at my house through the eyes of a stranger. It's clean. It's nice. But there are landmines everywhere. I spend the next 4 hours doing a frantic, paranoid sweep of my own home. I find old mail with Justin on the envelope. I shove it into a black garbage bag. I find an old framed photo of me and my mom from 5 years ago. I have zero beard, and I look miserable. I stuff it into the back of a closet behind my winter coats. I find an old prescription bottle for allergy medicine in the bathroom cabinet. It says Justin. I flush the pills down the toilet and throw the bottle away. I am literally erasing my own past. I feel like a fugitive. Around 6 p.m., the doorbell rings. I open the door. Kath is standing there holding my gray jacket and a brown paper bag smelling like peanut sauce. She is wearing jeans and a big oversized cardigan. She smiles at me. It's a shy, genuine smile. And all the panic in my chest melts into this stupid, warm puddle. Hi, she says. Hi, I say. I step aside to let her in. She walks into my living room. She looks around. Wow, Bash, this place is gorgeous. You actually have taste. I was worried you were going to have a giant poster of Scarface in the bathroom. I laugh awkwardly. No Scarface posters, just architectural prints. We sit on the couch. We eat pad thai, straight out of the little white cardboard boxes. We drink beers. We talk for another 3 hours. She tells me a story about her awful neighbors fighting over a property line. I tell her a story about my client who wanted a rendering of a house shaped like a guitar. It feels so easy. It feels completely natural. She laughs and leans her head on my shoulder. I put my arm around her. I am holding the woman who destroyed my life, and I have never been happier. This is completely sick. I am a sick person. Suddenly my phone rings on the coffee table. It's loud. We both look at it. The caller says Mom. I reach for it quickly, but my hand knocks against the beer bottle. The bottle tips over, spilling beer all over the coasters. Crap, I say. I jump up and run to the kitchen to grab paper towels. While I'm in the kitchen, the phone stops ringing. Then the automated voicemail picks up. My phone is connected to my cheap Bluetooth soundbar on the TV, which I apparently forgot to turn off. Suddenly, my mom's loud, piercing voice echoes through the entire living room. Justin, honey, are you coming to Thanksgiving or not? Your Aunt Helen keeps asking me. Please call me back, Justin. The voicemail cuts off. Dead silence in the living room. I am standing in the kitchen holding a roll of paper towels. I slowly walk back into the living room. Kath is sitting on the couch. She is looking at the phone. Then she looks up at me. She tilts her head slightly. Who is Justin? The question hangs in the air. I feel the blood drain from my face completely. My palms start sweating instantly. I need a lie. I need a lie right now. My brain scrambles frantically. Justin. I rub the back of my neck. Justin. I am rambling. I force myself to shut up. Kath watches me for a second. Then she smiles softly. That's cute. Justin Bash. It sounds very distinguished. She reaches out and takes the paper towels from my hand. She starts wiping up the spilled beer. I let out a breath. I didn't realize I was holding. The crisis is averted. For now. Fast forward 2 weeks. We are officially dating. We see each other almost every day. She leaves her spare phone charger at my house. I leave a toothbrush in her bathroom. We go grocery shopping together on Sunday mornings. She buys me a specific ugly yellow mug because she knows I drink a lot of tea. The domesticity is terrifyingly fast and incredibly comfortable. I am living in a constant state of low-level panic, waiting for the shoe to drop. Every time she looks at me a little too long, I think she figured it out. Every time she asks about my past, I give vague half answers. I am a ghost, haunting my own relationship. Then the first real consequence hits. I am at her house on a Tuesday evening. She is sitting at her kitchen island, surrounded by a massive pile of official-looking paperwork. She looks incredibly stressed. She is rubbing her temples. What's wrong? I ask. I pour 2 glasses of water and hand her one. She sighs heavily. She picks up a thick envelope with the city seal on it. I got a notice from the city building department. The retaining wall in my backyard is technically failing. It's encroaching on the city easement. They are threatening to fine me $2,000 a month unless I submit a structural repair plan and get a permit. I have no idea how to do this. I don't know any contractors. I don't even understand what this form is asking for. She looks close to tears. The invincible, terrifying Dr. Catherine Moore is crying over a municipal zoning form. I step in immediately. The protective boyfriend instinct overrides my survival instinct. Hey, look at me. I do architectural stuff every day. I know exactly how the city works. I will draw up the site plan. I will fill out the forms. And I will go to the permit office with you tomorrow to get it sorted out. She looks up at me. Her eyes are wide and grateful. Really? You would do that? It's a complete nightmare dealing with those people. I'll handle it. I say confidently. I am an idiot. The next morning, we drive to the city planning department. We walk into the massive brutalist concrete building. The lighting is terrible yellow fluorescent. The floor is cheap linoleum that squeaks when you walk on it. It smells like old paper and despair. We walk up to the little automated kiosk. We press the button for building permits. It prints out a tiny slip of paper. Number 84. I look up at the digital display board hanging from the ceiling, now serving number 12. I groan. We walk over to the waiting area. It is filled with rows of hard plastic chairs bolted to the floor. We sit down next to a guy in a dirty sweatshirt who is coughing wetly into a tissue. We wait. We sit there for 3 hours. The hard plastic chair is destroying my back. Kath is leaning against my shoulder playing a crossword puzzle on her phone. We make quiet, sarcastic jokes about the people walking past us. We bond over the absolute shared misery of municipal bureaucracy. Finally, the screen dings. Now serving number 84, desk 4. We stand up. My knees pop. We walk over to desk 4. A miserable-looking clerk with thick glasses is sitting behind a high counter. She doesn't look at us. She just holds out her hand. Forms. I hand her the thick stack of papers I printed out and filled out last night. She flips through them aggressively. She stamps something. She staples something. Then she stops. She stares at page 3. This is unacceptable. She slides the paper back across the counter. I look at it. What's wrong with it? You signed in black ink. All official city documents must be signed in blue ink. It's a fraud prevention policy. I stare at her. I look at the pen in my hand. It is black. Can I just trace over it in blue right now? I ask. No, she says flatly. It invalidates the form. You need a new form. You need to fill it out again. And you need to get back in line. I feel my blood pressure spike. Kath steps forward. Her voice drops an octave. She suddenly channels the terrifying Dr. Catherine Moore energy. Excuse me. We have been sitting in those miserable plastic chairs for 3 hours. You are going to accept this form. You. Or you are going to call your supervisor out here right now and explain to me why the color of ink determines the structural integrity of my retaining wall. The clerk blinks. She looks at Kath. Kath does not blink. It is a standoff of pure stubbornness. Finally, the clerk sighs loudly. She reaches under her desk. She grabs a blue pen. She hands it to me. Cross out the black signature. Initial it. Sign in blue underneath. I do it quickly before she changes her mind. I hand it back. She stamps it violently. Permit application accepted. We will call you in 2 to 4 weeks for final approval. We walk out of the building. The cold air feels amazing. Kath lets out a massive breath. I hate this stuff, she says. You were amazing in there, I say. She smiles and links her arm through mine. I owe you dinner. In fact, I owe you a really nice dinner. My friends are having a dinner party this Saturday. Calls. I want you to come. I want to introduce you to everyone. My stomach immediately drops into my shoes. Her friends. Her friends who are probably also terrifying psychology professionals. This is a terrible idea. I would love to, I say. Saturday night arrives. I put on my nicest dark sweater. I trim my beard. I practice lying in the bathroom mirror. Hi, I'm Bash. I design things. I definitely did not get emotionally destroyed by your friend 4 years ago. I drive to the address Kath gave me. It's a huge modern house in a very nice neighborhood. I walk up to the door and knock. Kath answers. She is wearing a dark red dress that makes me forget how to speak for a second. She pulls me inside. The house is full of people holding wine glasses. Soft jazz is playing from hidden speakers. It smells like expensive cheese and roasted garlic. She leads me into the living room. She introduces me to her friends. There is Martin. Martin is a tall guy with perfect hair who is a pediatric dentist. There is Eliza. Eliza is a child psychologist who looks at me like I am an interesting bug. There is Mark. Mark is some kind of financial consultant who wears a vest indoors. We sit around a massive oak dining table. We eat dry salmon and roasted asparagus. The conversation is intimidating. They talk about real estate. They talk about stock portfolios. They talk about their mutual friend who just bought a boat. I try to just eat quietly and not draw attention to myself. Then Martin looks across the table at me. So Bash, Kath says you do architectural rendering. What does that actually mean? Everyone stops talking and looks at me. I wipe my mouth with a cloth napkin. Basically, when an architect designs a building, they need to show the client what it will actually look like. So I take their 2D blueprints and I build a 3D model in a software program. I add lighting and textures. And I create photorealistic images of the building. Martin nods slowly. Sounds complicated. It pays the bills. I say, taking a sip of water. Eliza leans forward. She rests her chin on her hand. See, Kath is usually so picky. She smiles, but it doesn't reach her eyes. She analyzes everyone to death. She dated a guy last year who was a surgeon, and she dumped him because he chewed his food too aggressively. Everyone laughs. Kath flushes red. Eliza, shut up, she asked her. Eliza ignores her. She keeps looking at me. So how did you pass the test, Bash? What's your secret? I force a smile. I guess I just hide my flaws really well. The table laughs. It's a polite dinner party laugh, but I feel sick. Kath reaches under the table and squeezes my knee. He's different, she says quietly. He's so put together. He doesn't make me feel like I have to fix him. I literally want to die right there at the table. I want the floor to open up and swallow me whole. She loves me because she thinks I don't need fixing. She loves the completely fake armor I built out of spite. The rest of the dinner is a blur of miserable guilt. We finally leave around 11 p.m. We walk out to my truck in the driveway. The night is freezing. Kath is shivering. Here, I say. I grab my gray hoodie from the back seat and hand it to her. She pulls it over her head. It's way too big on her. The sleeves hang past her hands. She looks incredibly cute. We get into the truck. I turn the heater on full blast. I start driving us back toward her house. The streetlights flash rhythmically across the dashboard. We are quiet. It's a nice, comfortable quiet, until she sneezes. Bless you, I say. Thanks, she sniffles. Do you have any napkins in the glove box? My nose is running. Yeah, just push the button. She leans forward and pops open the glove compartment. The little orange light clicks on. She reaches in and digs through the massive old registration papers. Spare fuses. Ketchup packets. She pulls out a stack of paper napkins from a drive-thru. She wipes her nose. Then she stops. She is looking down at a piece of paper that got dragged out with the napkins. It's sitting on her lap. The ambient light from the streetlights illuminates it. I glance over. My heart literally stops beating in my chest. It is my old vehicle registration slip from 3 years ago, before I officially changed my name on my driver's license. It is printed in bold black letters. Just L. I swallow hard. My mouth is suddenly entirely dry. Kath picks up the slip of paper. She squints at it. Justin? She looks at me. I thought you said your first name was Justin, but you go by Bash. No, I say, speaking way too fast. My first name is Justin. Middle name Bash. I go by Bash. My mom is literally the only person who still calls me Justin. She refuses to use Bash. It's this whole stubborn mother-son dynamic thing. I am rambling. I force myself to shut up. Kath watches me for a second, then she smiles softly. That's cute, Justin Bash. It sounds very distinguished. She traces a line on the paper with her fingernail. Bash. This says, the owner's date of birth is 1996. The silence in the truck is absolutely deafening. The only sound is the heater blowing hot air. And the hum of the tires on the asphalt. The lie. I need to keep the lie going. Yeah, well, my brain is completely empty. It's my dad's old truck. I blurt out. It is the stupidest lie I have ever told in my entire life. She looks at the paper again. She tilts her head. Your dad's name is also Justin? Yeah, he gave me the truck. She holds the paper still. She looks up at me. That makes you 29. The silence in the truck is absolutely deafening. The only sound is the heater blowing hot air. And the hum of the tires on the asphalt. The lie completely collapses. It shatters into a million pieces on the dashboard. There is no saving this. There is no smart way out. I am caught. I hit the turn signal. I pull the truck off the main road. I pull into the empty, glowing parking lot of a Wendy's. I park the truck in a spot facing the bright yellow sign. I put the car in park. I leave the engine running. I let go of the steering wheel. I lean my head back against the headrest. I close my eyes. Bash? Her voice is suddenly very quiet, very careful. The therapist voice. What is going on? I open my eyes. I look at the bright neon light bleeding through the windshield. I take a deep, shuddering breath. My name is Justin. She stares at me. I know. You said that. Pregged. No. I turn my head to look at her. My name is Justin. 4 years ago, I weighed 240 pounds. I didn't have a beard. I wore terrible clothes. I worked a completely dead-end job. And I had a girlfriend named Nora. Kath freezes. Her entire body just goes completely still. Her eyes dart back and forth across my face. She is searching my features. She is looking for the ghost hiding underneath the beard and the cheekbones. Nora, she whispers. We fought all the time, I say. My voice is flat and exhausted. She dragged me to couples counseling. We went to a sleek office downtown. The therapist wore a black pantsuit. She took notes on a yellow legal pad. Kath's mouth opens slightly. The color drains from her face completely. She looks like she has actually been shot. I keep talking. I can't stop now. The therapist listened to us for 45 minutes, and then she looked at Nora. And she told her I was an anchor. She said I was emotionally stagnant. She said I had no potential. And she told Nora to cut the rope before she drowned with me. Kath presses her back against the passenger door. She pulls her knees up slightly. She is staring at me in absolute horror. Oh my God, she breathes. Nora dumped me that night, I say. It ruined my life, and it made me so incredibly furiously angry. I decided I would rather die than let that therapist be right, so I changed everything. I lost the weight. I started my business. I changed my name to Bash. I became a completely different person. I look down at my hands. They are shaking again. And then last month, I met you on Hinge. I didn't know who you were. You looked different in your pictures. You didn't have the severe bun. You didn't wear the glasses. We had the most amazing date. And the next morning, I walked into your home office to find a pen, and I saw the diploma on the wall. Catherine Moore. Kath is completely silent. She covers her mouth with her hand. She looks out the window at the empty drive-through lane. You knew, she whispers. You knew for 2 months. Yes, I say. Why didn't you tell me? Her voice cracks on the last word. She turns to look at me. Her eyes are shining with tears. Why would you lie to me every single day? Why would you let me introduce you to my friends? Why would you let me buy you things? Why did you keep pretending? I swallow the lump in my throat. Because I was terrified. Because I realized I actually liked you. Because I was obsessed with you. And I knew if I told you the truth, you would look at me exactly the way you are looking at me right now. Like I am a complete psychopath. Like I am a project. She shakes her head slowly. You're not a project, Justin. You're a liar. She reaches for the door handle. Kath, please, I say. I reach my hand out, but I don't touch her. She opens the door. The cold air rushes into the cab. Don't call me, She pulls the oversized gray hoodie off over her head. She drops it onto the passenger seat. She steps out of the truck. She slams the door shut. She walks quickly across the empty Wendy's parking lot. She pulls her phone out to call an Uber. She doesn't look back. I sit there in the idling truck for an hour, just staring at the yellow sign. The next 2 weeks are a complete black hole. I regress immediately. I stop going to the gym. I stop answering client emails. I sit on my couch in my sweatpants playing video games until 4 in the morning. My house becomes a disaster zone. There are empty takeout containers on the coffee table. There are unwashed coffee mugs piling up in the sink. I feel exactly like the old Justin. The spite that kept me going for 4 years is completely gone, replaced by this heavy, suffocating regret. I miss her. I miss her sarcastic texts. I miss her burning toast. I miss her telling me about her terrible neighbors, but I don't call her because she told me not to, and because I know I ruined it completely. Then, on a Thursday morning, my phone rings. It's an unknown number. I ignore it. It goes to voicemail. I check the transcript a minute later. This is Dena from the City Planning Department regarding permit application number 492 for the retaining wall repair. The plans have been approved. However, we require the property owner and the drafting agent to sign the final release forms in person at desk 4 before the end of the week. Thank you. I stare at the ceiling. The permit. The stupid retaining wall permit. I pull up Kath's contact in my phone. I haven't texted her in 14 days. I type slowly. The city called. The permit is approved. We both have to go sign it in person before Friday. I can meet you there tomorrow morning at 9. We don't have to talk. I hit send. I throw my phone onto the couch cushion. 10 minutes later, it buzzes. Fine. See you at 9, Friday morning. I actually shower. I put on clean clothes. I drive to the brutalist municipal building. I park in the massive concrete parking structure. I walk into the lobby. She is already there. She is standing by the automated kiosk. She is wearing her beige trench coat. She looks incredibly tired. There are dark circles under her eyes. She doesn't look at me as I walk up. Hi, I say quietly. Hi, she says. She presses the button. It prints ticket number 14. We look at the board, now serving number 12. We walk over to the hard plastic chairs. We sit down. There is an empty chair between us. We sit in complete agonizing silence for 20 minutes. The guy next to us is loudly chewing gum. The board dings. Now serving number 14, desk 4. We stand up. We walk to the desk. It's the exact same miserable clerk. She slides a thick blue folder across the counter. Sign here and here. She hands us 2 blue pens. I sign my name, Justin L., last name. I slide the paper to Kath. She signs her name, Catherine Moore. She doesn't hesitate. She slides it back to the clerk. The clerk stamps it loudly. Approved. You have 90 days to complete the construction. She hands Kath a yellow carbon copy. We walk away from the desk. We walk out of the building. The sky is overcast and gray. The wind is bitterly cold. We walk toward the parking structure. We reach her car, a silver sedan. She stops and unlocks it. She stands by the driver's side door holding the yellow paper. I stand a few feet away. I zip up my jacket. I'll send you the digital files for the contractor, I say. I look at the concrete floor. Okay, she says. She opens the car door. Kath! She stops. She looks at me over the roof of the car. I take a breath. The cold air burns my lungs. I am so sorry. I was embarrassed. I was humiliated by who I used to be. I just wanted to be a guy who was good enough for you, and I completely ruined it. She looks at me. Her expression softens slightly. The anger is gone. She just looks sad. Justin, she says. Hearing her say my real name feels strange, but it doesn't feel bad. I was so arrogant back then, she says quietly. I was fresh out of my program. I thought I knew exactly how to categorize people. I thought I could just look at someone and know their entire worth. I was so incredibly cruel to you, and I am so sorry. I shake my head. You were right. I was an anchor. I was drowning her. And honestly, I look up and meet her eyes. If you hadn't said that to me, if you hadn't destroyed me, I never would have changed. I never would have built this life. And I never would have been confident enough to ask you out at that bar. She traces the edge of the car door with her finger. She bites her lower lip. It's that same nervous habit from our first date. You really scared me, she says. The lying. It made me feel like I didn't know you at all. I know, I say, I know. We stand there in the cold wind, the sounds of traffic echoing off the concrete walls. She looks down at the yellow permit paper in her hand. She folds it carefully and puts it in her purse. She looks back up at me. I don't want to date Justin the project, she says. And I don't want to date Bash the perfect architect. She pauses. I just want to date the guy who spilled beer all over my coasters and panic cleaned his house because he was terrified I wouldn't like him. My chest suddenly feels incredibly light. A tiny tentative smile breaks across my face. I can be that guy, I say. She smiles back. It's small, but it's real. She gets into the driver's seat. She rolls the window down slightly. Call me tomorrow, she says. Okay. She starts the engine. I watch her taillights pull onto the street.